Can you believe it's August already? It's almost time for the season, and that means the season will almost be over. It just flies by so fast, and this buildup is always often, and I always often look back fondly, like in October, November, and think, man, you know, we were just here planting food plots. It was August, and then all of a sudden, it's the middle of the season. It does fly by, but it's because anything you love to do, vacation, hunting, it just flies by. And so, and I think as you get older, you know, I'm only 51. I don't think I'm that old, but at the same time, it seems like it flies by faster and faster. And I'm gonna start with something that has to do with public land, and really it's public land scouting. You know, what's great about this time of the year for public land scouting is I'm looking at sign, I'm looking at funnels, I'm scouting from the air. A lot of times I'm taking 5,000 acres, 10,000 acres, and I'm narrowing it down to where I find the biggest convergence of habitat change. I'm hunting clear cuts, hunting those movements away from the clear cuts. I'm getting a quarter mile to a half mile away from any suspected high quality food source, whether it's clear cut, whether it's neighbors that are baiting in Ohio, public land golf courses, whatever it might be, farm fields in the distance. And I'm going back into that half mile, 3/4 mile sometimes, and that's where I'm finding those buck areas, and I'm looking for that transition of habitat that's changing. And I'm talking about where hills meet swamps, where clear cut edges meet hardwoods. You're looking for edge. Whitetails are creatures of edge. I'm going in this time of year, and what you're looking for is old sign. So you find that collection of old rubs and scrapes, especially those old rubs, and you're looking at rubs that aren't all the same size, and they're all not from the same year. You'll see trees are actually damaged that were from several years ago. There's actually creases from them and big deep gouges, and you'll look at the back side of them and you'll see those tine marks on the back side of the trees. That means buck is twisting his antlers, and he's big enough to actually stretch his main beam around the back side, and those points are actually hitting the back side of the tree up from the main face of the rub up behind it. So I'm looking for historical sign on public land, and then I'm setting my trail cameras. If I'm using trail cameras on public land, I'm letting them soak, and then I'm going to check those when I first hunt, maybe end of September, October, depending on when the season is in your state. But that's our first deer hunting chore. Now, at the same time, we're going to be touring around the farm here today, and I want to show you what I'm actually doing in the woods on the farm right now. And you know, one of the things, I mean, we're standing in a mowed trail right here. This mowed trail is one of our access trails. We'll probably mow this one more time here in August, and this is our access for our quiet cats and for where we're getting in quietly into the stands, whether we're walking in or riding the quiet cats. But I want to make sure these are mowed down, and so I'm looking at access trails, making sure that they're clean. Doesn't matter if you're on private land, you're going back into the woods, I'm making sure sticks, debris, weeds, grasses, so I'm not leaving a scent signature everywhere I go on the property. I'm keeping this mowed down pretty tight. We'll probably mow it one more time and then let it go after that. And then we're just stepping over here, and in these locations we have switchgrass growing, and it's really important that we're following up with our weed control and getting our mowing done, and so that's a part of it too. We're making sure that the switchgrass that's actually in here has room to grow, and we're getting good growth in our investment that we made in time and making sure this is weed free. Going into next year, the switchgrass that's along this edge is ready to explode. Now, third, urea on my corn. So I'm putting on urea, typically about 125 to 150 pounds per acre, and I've already done that, and I'm making sure that I get that application of urea on here. And you can see there's places where we had liquid nitrogen sprayed on the food plots, but still there's areas where some of it's growing better than others. And so by putting that urea on there, we're making sure that these leaves of this corn are this really deep, beautiful green. We don't want yellow. We don't want it to have that very light green. So we have this very deep green right here and pretty corn. And that's what we just did yesterday before a big rain that we had today. So that's really important. We're making sure that we're feeding our corn. If we have the investment, we had Brandon from First Choice Food Plots come out here and put this corn in for us. And this was actually, we're August 5th right now, and this corn was planted July 5th. So we had a late planting. We used a short day corn, about 85-day corn. And so it's critical that we're getting our application of nitrogen on here so that we get actually corn this year and it grows. We still have a couple months for this to grow. So at least 6 to 8 weeks. And boy, the corn that's 2 weeks ahead of this over by the house is already about neck to head high. So this corn right here, you see, it doesn't seem very high right now. It's barely even waist high. but in 2 weeks it's going to be neck high. In 2 to 3 weeks after that, we'll start to see it tassel out and get some corn on it. So we have to take care of it. What we're also doing in August is we're making sure that we have our ultimate no-till with our buckwheat. We'll be planting this tomorrow morning. We just got great rain today, about 3/4 of an inch is our best guess. And so I'll be coming in here and I'll be planting half of this buckwheat strip right here in brassica, and the other half we'll be using our green blend. And so we'll spread that seed into the standing buckwheat. And if Dylan can come in here, I want to show you this real quick. This is the great thing about buckwheat. You can see we have stems every 3 to 4 inches. We have some good gaps in there. But when we spread that seed, it's going to go right down on the soil right down here. We have great seed to soil contact. And then we're going to run this over with the Packer Max called a Packer. And I'm going to spray at the same time. What's really cool about this, I'll grab a stalk of buckwheat here. For one is that root system. It's building the soil. But this shade of buckwheat will keep the ground moist. We'll get great germination. But look at that. It just crimps over very easily. So you run that over with the cultipacker and it breaks right over. You don't need anything else. The cultipacker works great. That's where we wear our Packer Max out on this stuff. And so what I've been doing this year too, to make it easier walking through, is I just run the side-by-side through here. And this is just a skip in the planting right here, but we're basically making trails so that we can more easily walk through the buckwheat. And with the brassica, we've only allowed this buckwheat to go about 6 weeks this year on good soil. So I'm actually taking our buckwheat and I'm planting into it, and my seeder is right above the buckwheat. That makes sure we have an even spread. Those little seeds will get down on the soil, we'll smash it down. I'm gonna kill this right away because I don't want it popping up. And that's a continuation of our ultimate no-till. We'll have, again, the green blend on one side, brassicas on the other. We'll smash this down. And then we're applying the glyphosate to control any of this weed growth that's down below, a lot of these low broadleafs. And then also I'm spraying to make sure this buckwheat stays down and doesn't stay green and outcompete the brassica. So we're doing that next. Now, another thing we're doing in August is after this is down, then I'm spraying my plot start right on it. So I'm getting those nutrients into the ground to allow the fertility from the ground and the nutrients to then transfer to the actual plant itself. And so that's a really important step. And then we'll be following that up towards the end of August, early September with our plot boost once everything's growing, so that we can give those plants a really good boost. And it's in that mid-growing process, so we'll get more volume and we'll have more traction on the plants that we do have. So those are those steps leading up to our planting. But you know, in September, we're coming in here, we're gonna spread 200 pounds of winter rye right over the green blend. The green blend meaning the peas, oats, late planted beans, sometimes adding tillage radish if it's a new plot. But I'm top dressing that all, not the brassica side unless there's a failure for some reason, but on the green blend, and I'm adding that 200 pounds of winter rye right over the top of it. So that's the end of it for our planting, going up through September. And then we still have some tree stand stuff to do and some blinds. And let's go over and I'll talk about and show you what we need to do there with our August deer chores. Now, next on the list for August, you can tell we have a lot to do in August. Actually gonna be doing a lot of work this weekend, August 7th, 8th, but we still have tree stands put up. And a lot of people think this is too late to put them up, and it really isn't. We plan on putting stands up here. We actually have a Family Traditions ladder stand right behind Dylan up in the tree right here. And we'll be moving that, adding an extension, and there's this beautiful big oak right there. And we don't have to cut a lot out. We have some pretty good shooting lanes down here already, so we're not gonna have to cut a lot. Bottom line is this is a cruising area. And I think we called it Venti's Funnel or something like that, because this is an area that he frequented, and especially mid to late October and during the rut. And so we're putting a lot of stands in place right now that we do not plan to hunt until it gets into that prime time. Now, maybe we put this stand here. We have a cell camera right back here already, one of the Exodus renders. And then also we'll add a mock scrape, but this stand location will be added here, and we don't plan to hunt it for, but it's August 5th right now. We probably won't be hunting this till the earliest, end of September, early October. So we're looking at possibly a full 2 months before we ever even think about hunting the stand. And so there's a lot of weeks of forgiveness. I look at it like with intrusions like this, bucks might shy away from the area for 3 or 4 weeks, but boy, when it gets to 2 months away, they're certainly going to forgive our intrusions at this time. Now, the next thing too is with the time that I have, I love May for putting in water holes, but you know, often that's not when I can get someone to help me put them in. And I have 5 to put in this year. And so Brian Lenneman, a friend of mine, friend of Dylan's too, and he's bringing a skid steer. So we're gonna put 5 water holes in. We have 3 that are right around 100, 110 gallons, and I have 2 that are 150 gallons. So a skid steer, that'll make really quick work as opposed to shoveling out the water holes that we've done so a lot of throughout the years. And so we're adding stands, great time to do so, and we're not even going to hunt them till early October, towards the rut, early November. And then also, really good time for water holes. So we're putting water holes in this weekend. We'll dig those in. And what's interesting, deer usually respond to those very favorably. There was one a long time ago, and I think this is going back so far, I'm not sure that Dylan could even pull out this footage, but we had a big buck that was coming in, and water hole we put down in Reedstown. And we had a nice, what looked like a 4-year-old coming in about 3 to 4 days after we put that water hole in. So we find, especially with that dirt disturbance, they're not too picky. So I think the water holes will be okay. But bottom line is we might have to fill them. I have a 275 gallon tank that we'll put in the back of the pickup truck or side by side. We'll back in here. It's got a 3-foot PVC pipe on it with a lever to open it up. And we'll possibly fill those water holes, although we're right in a rainy season time of the year. It's crazy. End of June through now early August, we're getting a lot of rain, and so maybe those will fill up a little bit. But it's also water hole time out on our farm this year, and there's one more project that we're going to do. We'll go take you to that right now, and we'll be done with our August deer chores. But that's what we're doing in August, and I can mention actually there's 2. I almost forgot one, Dylan, and that's I'm going to be cutting some timber for bedding areas. So August is a great time because of summer dormancy to get into some of these areas. I cut 3 good bedding areas last spring and end of winter time. And this is a great time to actually revisit areas on the property where I could add another 3 or 4 to fill in those gaps and space them well around the property. And we already have pretty good cover, diversity of cover, lots of hills and points and benches and saddles, lower valleys and flats. So we have a lot of separation between deer. We have decent habitat already, but those habitat cuttings will really give us some life more into the wintertime where deer need to rely on that browse and that hardwood regeneration for that daytime bedding during the season. So actual crating and cutting some bedding areas right now is another August deer chore. We're fitting a lot in August, and I'll take you to one more after that. Now, last but not least, we have some lane trimming to do on some of our stands and blinds. So this is one of them right here. This is our Family Traditions tripod stand, and we're actually going to lower this rail down to here, put this piece on the top so that we can actually sit here and shoot. We just need to notch out some holes right here. What's cool about this is, you know, I feel comfortable notching out these holes here all the way to the end of August, just simply because the deer are really going to be none the wiser to that. We actually installed Diane's redneck blind last year in August, and she shot 2 nice bucks, and we had almost every buck in the property move through right in front of it within 10 yards of the blind. But it helps that where we're hunting is on that side of the brush. So we have a hole right there we're trimming out, a hole right here and a hole right there. So we'll be able to sit in here, trim out these holes from up above with our steel saw, and we'll be done. You know, it's already installed. This side's the ag field. We're not shooting deer out here. It's not our property anyways, out on that side. So we'll be able to shoot right down into this field and have a great hunt here this fall. I can't wait to hunt out of this. And then we have 2 redneck blinds we're installing the end of this month too. Same thing. We're putting those behind cover. We'll trim out holes. And as it looks from the actual food plot, when you look back up here, you can't even see this right now. The holes that we have, it's going to blend it into. You can see why I'm putting this railing right down here. They'll be able to shoot a bow right over that railing. Dylan will be able to sit in here and film with me too. So whether we're putting urea on the corn, we're mowing our switchgrass, installing all of our food plots, getting into our ultimate no-till, putting in last minute stands, water holes, we're trimming out shooting lanes, we're getting ready. We're not being real invasive. I might even make some bedding areas, but those are going to be in areas that we're actually not hunting. We're just looking at holding more deer, especially as it gets into November and December. But a lot of people look at August as, boy, we can't get in the deer woods. but really there's a lot of time. The best of hunting is still 2 months away or more as far as getting into that October. I love hunting the October lull because you get those cold fronts. It can be a great time to hunt. Again, you know, August is probably our busiest time of the year. And let's throw one in there too. We already covered this in our August deer fails because a lot of people don't do this enough, but make sure you're shooting your bow. You know, August is the perfect time to really start hammering, shooting lots of dots, just shooting good repetition. And I got to point out when we're shooting our bow, when I'm up here, you know, I never stand up to shoot anyways, but with the roof on here, it kind of makes it a little bit harder. But I'll be able to shoot sitting down. That's what I practice. I practice pulling straight back to make that shot. And so whether you have last minute stands to install and shoot and clear shooting lanes for, blinds, water holes, shooting your bow, getting your food plots planted, making sure your switchgrass is mowed, making sure your trails are clean and free so you can leave a scent-free trail on the way to and from your stands. There's a lot to do right now in August. This is the final push. Once we get into September, it's more pure hunting. And you know, I didn't even mention trail cameras, but there's so many trail cameras that are going out in the woods right now. Ours have been out for a while. I like getting them out in June when we start to recognize the bucks. Again, they're in hunting locations. So lots to do in August. I can't wait to hear about your success this fall. And I hope you find these videos very helpful for making sure that you're on track for not only having a great herd, but a great hunt just around the corner. I'm excited to tell you guys about my latest web class. It's how to plant food plots, how to design your food plot program, and it covers everything. And really, there's 30 videos, over 10 hours, 11 hours of footage, workbook, hats, you know, all that stuff. On top of it, I urge you to check out the link. But I cover 5 main areas: critical food plot concepts, where to plant, how to create, what to plant, and finally how to plant. It takes you through that step by step so you can make your own decisions that apply to you and build a great high quality food plot program this year, whether you have decades of experience or no experience at all.